This is the IP address that I'm gonna call. Let's try whether I can call. And I got it. What's up YouTube, this is David. In today's video, I'm going to share with you what I've learned about AWS Transit Gateway and how I can use it to connect to two VPC at two different accounts with peering attachment. As you can see from this image, I'm trying to connect this instance from this public subnet to this instance at the private subnet of another account. But before that, let's start with connecting both instances at the same public subnet, and we move on from there. Let's begin. First, I'm going to show you how we create a transit gateway. Go to your VPC, then after that you move on to your transit gateway, and after that you pick a name. So I'm going to call this Transit Gateway 02. You keep everything as default and we just create. You do the same for the other account. While we're waiting, let's show you what I've done for the other account. I have another account called FOAB David Out 2, and I've created another transit gateway for it. So basically what we're trying to do is that we're trying to create connection between two VPC from two different accounts. Instead of using VPC peering, we can choose to use AWS Transit Gateway peering connection. So what we have here is two accounts. They are connecting to each other using AWS Transit Gateway. Let's see whether it started already. See if it started already. Okay, good. We have this transit gateway and this transit gateway. Trying to create a connection between them. The next thing you have to do is you create an attachment. Let's choose peering connection. Let's choose other account, US ID from the other account. Right now the transit gateway attachment has been created, but it's not done yet because the state still shows that it's pending acceptance. So let's move on to the next account. And as you can see, there is nothing here because we are looking at transit gateway attachment. Okay, so right now let's look at pending acceptance. Accept transit gateway attachment. I'd like to put this here. Let's do a refresh. Let's check whether the state is available. Okay, great. It takes a while after you create the attachment and accept the peering connection. Right now we have accept the peering connection. Let's move on to the subnet that you want to attach to. Right now you have created the attachment. Next, we have to identify which subnet we want to attach to this transit gateway. In this diagram here, I've shown you that we're trying to start with the public subnet first. So let's create the attachment for this subnet. I'd like to know what subnet and VPC that this attachment is showing. Click this and click the VPC ID. Let's subnet for this. Oops. And call this TGW A02. Let's choose the transit gateway. It's a VPC attachment. See where in the public, let's choose where this instance is. And let's create. So right now I've created this attachment, this subnet attached to this transit gateway. Let's do the same for the next one. The VPC, and let's call this TGW there. 02. Let's select transit gateway, VPC, correct subnet that I want. Let's create. If you set up VPC peering connection before, you have to set up the route table in order for the instance to travel to the other accounts using the transit gateway. Let's look at the route table where the subnet is. As you can see, there is no transit gateway ID. Let's attach them. Let's make some changes. As I'm showing you as an example, it is best if you can specify, if you can narrow the range where the instance can be found. In this example, I'm choosing a pretty wide range. We know that the instance can travel to the other accounts using this transit gateway. Let's make sure this setup is the same at the transit gateway route table. As you can see from this route table, it is not set up to point to the other side. Let's create the static. Let's make it white. Let's choose the attachment, which is the peering connection. It is registered. Let's set up the same connection on the other side. This is the instance that we want to connect to the other account. Let's choose the subnet for it. As you can see, I've set up this before, but it's showing a black hole because it has a different transit gateway ID. Let's choose the correct one. Save. Let's do the same for the transit gateway route table. Peering connection. It has to be a peering connection because you're trying to connect this instance to another account in another VPC. I have this instance in this account. Let's connect. Let me find out what's the IP address for this. Can we connect? No, we can't. Let's look at the transit gateway attachment and ensure that it is set up. Good, it is showing the subnet that the instance is located. And we're in. Now we have set up a peering connection using transit gateway for these two instances at the same public subnet. Let's move on to the next one which we wanted to set up. I wanted to connect this instance from this account to this instance in the private subnet. Something I found out during this experiment is that the transit gateway. Something I learned about this experiment is that if you want to attach a subnet to a transit gateway, you have to create a transit gateway attachment. However, just because it's under the same VPC, you cannot attach two subnets using one attachment. You have to create one subnet per attachment. It is more convenient if, let's say, the instance that you wish to connect between public and private subnet is of different availability zone. This way you can use one transit gateway attachment, but you can connect to two instance, one at public subnet and one at private subnet. In this example here, we cannot do that because the instance that I want to connect is at the same availability zone as the previous one. Let me show you. This is the transit gateway attachment that I wanted to show you, and in here you can see that the instance that I want to connect, which is this one, is at private 1 US East 1, which is remember this 7cc2, but this attachment right now is at 93F0, which is a public subnet. However, like I said just now, if you want to have access to two instances but at different subnet, you have to arrange them at different availability zone. So you have one at public subnet but at AZ1 and one at private subnet but at AZ2. It's possible, but in this example we have to make some changes, and therefore we can only use one gateway attachment, and therefore I'm going to reuse this transit gateway attachment to point to this instance at this private subnet just by making changes at the attachment here. Let's see whether it works. Now that these two instances at the public subnet can be connected, let's move on to this. Let's see whether this instance can connect to this instance at this account, and whether this instance can connect to this instance at this account. Let's do a curl command. And why am I using a public IP address? Give me a while. It can. Let's see whether the other side. Let's see whether the other instance can as well. And it can't. Why? This instance is connected to an internet gateway. I suspect the instance at the private subnet is using a net gateway, and it's. But why? Let's go back to the route table. Let's check the route table for this instance. There isn't a transit gateway. Let's make changes to it. Okay, let's test again. It works. Surprisingly, in order for this instance at the public subnet to connect to this at the next account, two changes have to be made: the AWS Transit Gateway and the subnet route table. Two changes have to be made. First is the route table at the transit gateway and the route table at the subnet level. So in order for this account at the private subnet to connect to this account at the public subnet, the route table has to include the transit gateway. I hope you understand what I'm trying to share here, and I myself has benefited from this experiment, and I hope that you learn something from this. If you have any questions, please write in the comments below, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.